Hey guys, so as Ivory Tower is approaching very soon, it's literally in 2 days, I'm sure a lot of you guys are a little bit worried or kind of like anxious about like getting gate kept for this raid. Now, I want to spend today's video talking about how you can prevent that, or at least make it a little bit better, like what you can do right now to make your character look better so you don't get gate kept as much. And this is applicable for every piece of content in the game, right? Not just Ivory Tower. Of course, Ivory Tower is going to have the highest level of gatekeeping, but in other content as well, you want to make your character look as good as you can so that you don't get gate kept. And that, at the very beginning, at the top, it's going to have to do with your report card, what your character looks like on your profile. And it's unfortunate that it is this way, but unfortunately, for the most part, when people are gatekeeping, they don't know how you're going to perform, right? All they can do is look at what your character looks like and make inferences off of that. So I'm here to teach you today what you can do at this moment to change your character to make it look better. So let's open up our report card, right? Our character profile. The first thing that people are going to be looking at is your roster level. What level is your roster? Because that determines a lot of like how much you've played the game, even though it's not an exact measure, right? Because for me, I have a much lower roster level than a lot of people who have played the game, less time than I have. But because I don't do horizontal content that much, my roster level is going to be a lot lower than a lot of other people who have played the game for 5,700 hours, right? So that is the first thing that you should work on is your roster level. Now, as I mentioned, a lot of this is time gated, right? But there is a lot of horizontal content that you can do to increase your roster level. So if you have been neglecting your horizontal content, go and do some of that horizontal content so you can boost this level up. Now, you might say like you don't want to do it, but unfortunately, a lot of times you got to work for what you want, right? So go do some of that horizontal content to increase your roster level, because that's one of the first things people will look at when they are trying to gatekeep somebody. The next thing is your stats, of course. Make sure your stats are in line. Now, what that has to do with is kind of twofold, right? So first, do you have the right stats for your build? For example, Knight's Edge is crit main stat with Swift substat. Do you have that in your character? Are you all over the place with crit, spec, dom, endurance? Do you have like a rainbow colored combat stat distribution, right? Make sure you have the right stat distribution in the first place. Look online, look on, whether it's Max Roll or Lost Ark Nexus or Loa, whatever it might be, wherever your favorite resources is to go to. Look on there to make sure that you have the right stat distribution for your class. Now, the second thing about your stats is that you want a higher number. Bigger number, better person in this case, right? My crit is actually fairly low for my class. But I think that's fine because if you look at my bracelet, right, it is a fervor bracelet. So I gave up, it's not the best bracelet, of course. But I gave up some of that crit stat for that fervor. And especially for crit swift classes, that's okay. That's not terrible. But for spec main classes, that might be a little bit worse. Dropping some spec for these bracelet lines, you might not want to do that as much, depending on how much spec you drop. But for the most part, I'd say a safe place to go is like 1750 plus. Like 1750 is, I'd say, the minimum that you want for your stat, for your main stat, and then anything beyond that, makes it better and better, right? So that's kind of the guideline that I go with. Make sure you go online, check your stats, what stats you should have, and make sure that your accessory quality is to a point where you can get at least 1750 of your main stat. Now, if you're 50-50, that changes things, right? That's a little bit harder to tell. But for most classes in the game, you're not like a 50-50 distribution. For the most part, you're just going to have like your off stat on your necklace, and then you're going to have your main stats on everything else. So that's kind of the guideline I go with. In terms of quality, earrings give you the most bang for your buck, or I guess not really bang for your buck, but bang for quality, right? So if you're going to be skimping out on quality, you want to do it on your rings instead of the earrings, and definitely not on the necklace as well. The necklace gives you the most stat, then it's the earrings, then it's the rings. So make sure you have high quality on your necklace, and make sure your necklace has the main stat as the priority. As you can see, this one, I didn't have crit as my main stat, priority, but again, that's fine because crit swift doesn't really matter as much. If you're a spec class, you definitely want spec to be the highest number on your necklace. So that is quality, right? Now, The next piece that people are going to be looking for is going to be your engravings. For the most part, you don't have to worry about this, especially if you're running Super Makoko Express. They're going to give you the right engravings. You're going to be 5x3. If you're going to Ivory Tower, I feel like most people are going to be expecting 5x3x1. So if you're still rocking that Super Makoko Express 5x3, you might want to think about getting 5x3x1 at this point. Of course, if you have friends, it's easier. You can definitely do it with 5x3. But if you're going into Pug, they're probably going to be expecting at least 5x3x1. So make sure you go and get your 5x3x1. And of course, get the right engravings, right? Make sure you have the right engravings. Go on, again, Lost Art Nexus, Loa, Maxroll, whatever it might be. They'll be your best resources for figuring out what your 5x3x1 should be. Now, next thing they're going to look at is probably card set or gems. It depends on the person, but we'll just go in chronological order and we'll go to gems, right? For me, I'm lucky in that this character is a express character, so I got level 7s and level 8s. That, for the most part, should be fine getting into parties, getting into pugs, but again, people have different levels of expectations, right? The higher, the better for the most part. I'd say if you want to comfortably get into parties, maybe think about level 8s and level 9s and maybe, like, if you can, like, mix in a level 10 in there, but I don't think level 10 is, like, really required. Mostly 8s and 9s are probably going to be good enough. All 7s, you're definitely going to have to get lucky in getting into a party. You want to do 7s, 8s, 9s, at least a mixture of that. And also, of course, make sure you have it on the right skills, right? Because if you have it in the wrong skills, people are going to look at you and be like, oh, this person clearly doesn't know what they should be doing for their build, right? So again, Loa, Lost Art Nexus, Maxroll. Take a look what they're doing. Especially, I'd say Loa, for the most part, should be the most accurate. And if you really want to get into the deep, kind of nitty gritty, go on to Invent, do some translations there. That'll be a good way to start. Now, lastly, in the tab specific areas, right? Card set. One of the biggest mistakes I see people do is in their card sets. And this probably is going to be the longest section because a lot of people, of course, LOS 30 is going to be the ideal card set for most content in the game. If you have LOS 30, perfect. If you don't have LOS 30, there are kind of different levels to this. You, of course, want to have LOS 18 as a minimum for the most part, but cards don't come that easily a lot of times. While they've made it easier for people to collect their cards, it still is hard to get to LOS 18 for a newer player. If you spent some time playing, you've probably gotten LOS 18 already, but for a newer player, LOS 18 might not even be feasible. If that's the case, you should not use LOS 12. You should not use LOS 6, LOS 4, LOS 2. If you don't have LOS 18, don't even consider using the card set, because people will just look at you and think you don't know what you're doing. There's a lot better card sets out there than LOS 12 or LOS 6 or below. You want to use card sets like Deep Dive, for example. Take a look. We'll take a look at Deep Dive right now. So, right here, Deep Dive, right? You need Balthor, Azena Inanna, and then you need these other blues and purples, right? You actually don't need all of them. You don't need both Balthor and Azena Inanna. You can have just like one of these, and then mix in the rest with blues and purples. So for the most part, you should be able to get a decent amount of Deep Dive cards. Even if it's like Deep Dive 12, Deep Dive 18, right? You don't have Deep Dive 30. Just use that instead of using LOS 12, please. It at least gives you damage. If somebody looks at you, again, if you have LOS 12, somebody looks at you, they're just going to think that you don't know what you're doing. Just use Deep Dive 12, Deep Dive 18. It'll be better. Of course, it's still likely that you'll get gatekept for having Deep Dive 12, Deep Dive 18, but it's way better than having LOS 12 and below. And for supports, right? Even if you don't have Lost Wind Cliff 30, you should not use, it's the same idea. Don't use a lower level of Lost Wind Cliffs. Don't use Lost Wind Cliff 12, Lost Wind Cliff 6, 4, 2. That just doesn't work, unfortunately. If you're a support, you use I have a plan. Again, even if it's I have a plan 12, I have a plan 18, just use it. It's way better than Lost Wind Cliffs because it does not give you anything. And if you don't have, sorry, it's not I have a plan, you have a plan. If you don't have you have a plan, then what you can do is use the super budget card set. There's a couple sets actually. There's the Farewell Weapon set, right? This will give you max HP. This is a set that you can use. And the other card set you want to use is either the, of course, like I said, the Farewell Weapon set or the Field Boss set. If you don't, as a support, if you don't have Lost Wind Cliff 30, just use either You Have a Plan, of course, that's the better one. But if you don't even have that at level 12, then use your Field Boss set, the 6th set of that, or use the Farewell Weapon, the 6th set of that. Again, it's not ideal. You'll probably get gatekept, but again, this video is about reducing your chances of getting gatekept, right? At least show to them that you're not like a complete idiot. You show to them that you know at least what you're doing. Since you don't have those cards set, I'm going to be using this one. Now, lastly, I'm going to say this lastly because many people don't check it, but I still think that some people do check this. That is going to be the weapon quality. Of course, as a support, your weapon quality doesn't matter as much, but you'd still want to get it as high as you can just to look better. But for DPS, ideally, you push your weapon quality up higher than, let's say, 20, 30, 40, 50, right? If you're anywhere below 50, go push your weapon quality up. Push it up to at least like 60 or 70, right? That's kind of, I'd say, like, hopefully you don't land in 60 or 70 because that's like the dead zone for most people. That's where most people get stuck and can never get out of until they spend way too much money. But if you're at 50 something or below, try to push your weapon up. That way you can get to 60, 70, or even higher if possible, right? Don't spend too much money on it though. Again, you get it to 60, 70. If it gets stuck there, don't worry too much about it. But if it's anywhere below 50, spend the little bit of gold and a little bit of chaos stones of chaos on pushing your weapon higher, because you're going to be doing significantly less damage if you're at like weapon quality 20 and 30 compared to somebody at weapon quality 60, and it doesn't take that much investment. The percentage chance of succeeding is not that bad at those levels. If you're at 60, 70, 80, 90, then I'd say you can probably stay where you're at. I know said that was last thing, but there's one more thing that people do gatekeep on, and personally I think this is going a little bit too far, but since this is a video that's covering all the pieces of getting gatekeeping, I'm going to cover it. The last one has to do with your demon damage. I don't have a ton of demon damage, as you can see. I only have 2% demon damage, but some people do gatekeep off of demon damage. So if you have extra card EXP, go to your codex, your card codex, right? Your card catalog. Go to books, and then you can filter for damage versus demons, and make sure that these sets have as much awakening on them as possible. Use your card EXP to level up these sets till you have more demon damage. Again, I think it's a little bit silly that people are gatekeeping off of demon damage, but it does happen. So please go and upgrade your demon damage if you can. So that's about it. Those are the things that you can do right now in this moment to make your resume better. Some of them, again, are going to cost a little bit of money, but I tried to leave out anything that costs way too much money, right? I'm not telling you need to get LOS 30. That is just, unreasonable. I'm not telling you need to get level 10 gems. That is also unreasonable. Just make sure you have the minimum, like LOS 18, deep dive, you have a plan, get your level 7 gems, throw in some level 8s in there, maybe level 9s if you can, 7s and 8 minimum, and for Ivory Tower at least. If you're lower level content, then it's a little bit different. But yes, get your level 7 gems in there at least. That way, maybe a nice party will let you in. But if you have anything below that, they're likely not going to let you in. So yeah, hopefully that helped you guys out. If it did, please leave a comment in the comment section down below on what you did to improve your resume. And also, as always, remember to hit the like button, hit the sub button, ring the bell for notifications, and I also stream on Twitch and multi-stream on YouTube every night starting at 10 p.m. PST. So hopefully I see you there. If not, then I will see y'all on the next video. Peace out.